Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for more Malifaux. This time, Snowstorm from the Arcanists faction. Fairskin 09047. Snow was one of the silent ones in Rasputina's cult of December, and during one of December's many attempts to possess her, Snow was slain, and Rasputina managed to direct December's energy into Snow's carcass instead of and away from herself. Rather than be trapped in an inferior host, December pulled back, and Snow was not only reanimated, but was now accompanied by a aspect of December, the Wendigo-like creature, which would later be named Storm. And now, Deep Red 09002. The two are very inseparable. To a certain extent, one of the same. They are the same being, bound to each other in the same way that December is bound to Rasputina. And during another attempt December made to possess Rasputina, Snow slit Storm's throat, but Storm was later revived. And that's about all there is to them lore-wise. They are some muscle for the cult of December. And that is all I'm going to do right this minute, so back in a bit. Alright, let's see if this works out in my head, in real life, the way it works in my head. Ashen Blue 09057. So, December is very much based off of the Wendigo, a Native American myth, sort of spirit of cannibalism, which is definitely one of December's themes, but his minor manifestations like the Wendigo totem of Rasputina or Storm also bear that aspect. The Blessed of December has this as well. And I want a flesh that is kind of intended to blend into the wintry environments that his cult prefers. And I just realized as I'm kind of getting started on this that this is going to bear more than a little resemblance to the abominable snowman from the classic Rankin Bass special. I didn't even intend to do a reference on this one, it happened anyway. Alright, getting the ears and the face. I'll be picking out the hair later, but that's pretty good actually. So as opposed to a completely solid coat of fur, it seems kind of sporadic and patchy. And why they sculpted his butt is beyond me, but whatever. And here, I'm keeping my brush moist, but not overly wet here. go ahead and start on Snow's costume as well. And for that I'm going to start with Sky Blue 0918. And the reason that her face is the only skin showing is because she lives in an icy wasteland. High mountains, covered in snow. So what I'm going to do is get the... Okay, she's got a mask over her mouth too, so... This is an outfit purely for the practicality of an incredibly and insanely icy environment. Too much water there. And my system decided to blow a fuse. Okay, let's play nice now. So, kind of a fun little thing I realized with Malifaux is Rasputina basically has the same powers as Elsa from Disney's Frozen, except one, Rasputina came out, or Malifaux came out years before Frozen did, and Rasputina was one of the original Arcanist masters. And in a fight, Rasputina would probably eat Elsa alive, figuratively and literally, considering she heads up a cult of cannibals and it boils down to ruthlessness. In early Rasputina fiction, she conjured up an ice golem out of the blue, which threw a full-sized train car at Samus, the Mad Hatter, with, yeah. It's kind of interesting, entertaining. Okay. It's pretty good. I'm going to let that dry completely now before I move on. We'll just see if what I'm trying ends up working out or not. Alright. Looks like it's kind of in focus. Other white 09062. I may need more of that later on, but go over and get getting the trim on Snow's coat, and this will be used on Storm's fur. Again, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Okay. Just making sure, and I just realized that was a really bad angle there. So again, it looks like Snow's wearing kind of a double layer of thick winter capes, but again, she lives on an unforgivingly cold mountain. Now, This ribbon-like part here I initially thought was her hair, but I think it's actually part of her coat, so I'm going to get Storm's fur and then pick that out later. And that paint is a little thick right there. And it looks like, based on current concept art for this character, that they're getting a new sculpt with Snow riding the storm. That that's not too relevant. Some models, as they get new sculpts, seem to take things in different directions. I'm starting to ramble. This is very early in the morning. I've had a very long couple of weeks again, but I'm just going to try to get through this quickly because this is a fairly simple color scheme, so there aren't too many base coats, far fewer than Fuhatsu had. I'm going to get this done. Now this sculpt of Storm had an indentation in his leg where Snow kind of plugged into. So not too horribly difficult in assembly. And I'm working from the lowest point on the model to the highest, which is why I haven't done the teeth and horns yet. I wanted to get the fur first. I need a little more of that white, but not much. Oh, and my sister decided to throw a temper tantrum. This is what I have to work with. Okay. Just... Alright, screw it. I'm just gonna finish up. So this is just gonna be a mess, and that's all there is to it. Just very incredibly frustrating. Alright, you know what? 1,300 frames dropped in the blink of an eye. Just very frustrating. Very frustrating. Alright, so one thing you're going to notice on this channel is actually very few Arcanists videos from Malifaux. Same thing with Signor for War Machine, and that is that those were among the factions I started with those respective games. So I have more stuff for them, including just, well, I've been painting longer than I have been doing these videos. So you'll never see Rasputina because she was one of the early masters I got. You'll never see Colette because same reason, or Ramos, or I think I got Marcus before I started doing the video. I'd have to check. Done so many of these, but alright. I'm going to let that dry completely. When I come back, I should be able to finish the base coats, but technical difficulties aside, I'm getting there. Okay. Alright. Templar Blue 09056. I'm just going to use this to put some variance into Snow's costume. Just do this secondary layer here. And her mask. And her gloves. So subtle, but, you know. And then this sort of scarf part, which flows over Storm's leg. Okay. Yellowed Bone 09143. Getting fangs. And horns and claws. That is too thick. Okay. And then just a bit on the visible claws. I'm not very talkative right now because I'm not feeling well. It's a morale thing. I've just been put through too much the last 24 hours, a couple of days, so I'm just not feeling very talkative right now, but I really want to get this done too. Okay. And Cloudy Gray 09089. This is getting clogged, so paperclip. That's got it. There we go. And again, this basing is just custom sculpted. I just want to do a fairly flat, rocky peak, and I think I will be putting a bit of white flock for snow on it when I finish. It's been a while since I've done one of those. Just a nice solid stony coat here. Just kind of a granite outcropping. Okay, that's base coats. Let that all dry completely, then I can start shading. Alright, time to shade. Stained Ivory 09142. And thinning with 1 part water, 1 part paint. And applying over the relevant areas. So, teeth and the horns. And the claws. And those fingers. And toes. And I'm gonna let that dry before I move on, so I'll actually, now on second thought, Breonne Blue 09055. Just a bit of this to go on relevant portions of Snow's outfit. working from high to low, but normally working from high to low, which would actually be the white trim, but here, because of some of Snow's or Storm's fur, it's going to be done this way. Okay. Let that dry completely, and then move on when it does. Okay. Next, linen white 09061. This is where it's going to get a little tricky, but honestly, if it blends into some of the other colors, I think I can make that work for me. I'm going to start on Snow again and get the trim on her hoods and coats. It is mentioned in the most recent biography, I suppose is the best word for it, on Snowstorm, that Snow's becoming more independent of Rasputina, but for now is still following along with her orders. Okay, let's absorb that there real quick. Using just the empty brush, that'll soak it right up. And starting with the top down on Storm. Just gonna get both sides of the head first. And just let this flow down where it's gonna go. All these wonderful crevices in the hair here. And then he's got that stripe of it on his back, but the texture gets a little more ambiguous at that point. I still find it kind of odd that they didn't put that hair all the way down the butt crack, but whatever. Although now that I said that, the idea of putting Storm in a little red Speedo comes to mind for some reason. That'd be hilarious. I'm a little more caution as I get closer to Snow. Especially where this scarf or ribbon covers up here. Although if I end up nicking it anyway, that's fine too. Keeping the brush nice and wet during all this. Alright. So that's going to leave the rest of Snow's dress, her flesh tone, Storm's skin, the inside of his mouth, then the base. Thinking I'm going to need 3 more sessions, I think. Maybe 2, so back a bit. Alright. Sapphire Blue 09016. Just going over the other part of Snow's dress with this. And Templar Blue 09056. So Storm's skin tone is one step lighter than the secondary color on Snow's dress, though it overall uses the same coloration. Allowing this to flow into the fur to a certain extent. So, well, the knees, they just looked like they should be bare to me, as in devoid of fur. And a lot of this is all open to personal interpretation. Never forget that. Yeah. Some of this is seeping into the fur, and that's okay, I think. I'm gonna roll with it. I am gonna roll with it. Some patches of fur have a little bit of the blue in it. That's fine. That is just fine. I'll absorb some of this, but not all of it. Alright. Now we'll leave the red on the inside of Storm's mouth, Snow's flesh tone, and the stone on the base, so just about there. A little bit more right there. Alright. Back when it dries. Alright. Wrapping up the shading. Red brick 09001. Clogged Paperclip. Still clogged. Frustration is bound. Oh boy. This is... Oh boy, and that just blew open. Right. Red brick. And just fill in the mouth. This gets on the teeth, well then it just means Storm ate somebody. Fair Shadow 09046. Dot that onto Snow's face. Make her nose a little, which is covered by the mask. And Stormy Grace from 9088. And you'll notice I'm using the entire side of the brush and not just the tip here. Alright. Maybe absorb a little of that red right here. Let that dry completely. Then I can fill in the eyes and then start highlighting and detailing. Get this wrapped up. Okay. I got a different idea for the eyes this time. Matte white. I'm going to do a glowing effect and kind of another way of showing that these two are kind of bound together. So I'm going to give them spiteful glowing red eyes. But first I need matte white to fill in and prep the lighting effect. And Snows are just barely visible there. Storms are not much bigger, but they are easier to paint. So just fill in, let that dry completely, then I can light them up. Blood Red 09003. And for lighting, thin it out with 2 to 3 parts water, 1 part paint. Trick is to leave a little of the white showing. Carefully try to dab that into Snow's eyes, which are alright now. That kind of works. It was like it's going to be problematic with her on the just the side of them, but Storm. Okay. Let that dry completely, and I can highlight and go on from there. Okay, time to highlight. Snow's eyes turn a bit wonky, but I think it's okay. I just realized that might be considered a racial slur. I have no idea. I'll have to look it up. 09048 for highlights. So, straight paint only, no water. Using a ragged feathered brush, and for this one I need the smallest I've got. I suppose this will work, something along the lines of this. I'm going to rub most of my paint on my paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left. And dusty area to be affected. Going against any raised areas, in this case the bridge of her nose. Yeah, I mean there's so little there. But it definitely looks like her eyes are glowing. I'll clean that out. And now I'm going to take, actually matte, yeah, I'm going to take matte white. I am, well, if I can get my preferred brush out. You know what, I'm getting ahead of myself. Not matte white yet, dang it. Blood red first, real quick. I want to get the inside of Storm's mouth. Getting a little out of over here. Just mostly getting the tongue. Now the matte white. I'm going to use that as a highlight on his skin. Going against any raised areas and contours, which will help catch the paint and make them stand out more. And let's go back to snow, and I'm going to take Ashen Blue 09057. You'd be surprised how little paint you can get away with on this, but even I still have trouble estimating at times. Maybe should have done this last, but it's alright. So normally I focus on areas that are most readily visible. There aren't really too many of those on this level. And now, yeah, Creamy Ivory 09144. These things make the loveliest sounds when they are almost empty. Refreshing the paint as needed. You can really see this popping on as I go against the ridges on the horns here. And yeah, that's from that Ghost White 09063. This is a more subtle color combination with the Ghost White, Linen White, Leather White. So it's not going to stand out as much, but you know, I just realized I should have done the blue on Snow's dress first, or the other, the light blue. It's alright, I can roll with this, I can work with this. I just do another layer of this on her, that's fine. use a little more paint on some of these areas where it got runny to cover that up a little bit. This is a step where you can patch up mistakes and extra runoff. Going against the grain in the fur. Again, trying to catch this on those raised areas. But again, this is a pretty subtle combination, so that's it for Storm. But Snow needs Sky Blue 09018, which I should have done before the white trim on her coat. I just had a brain fart and got a little out of order here. Okay, oh, good grief. And in the blink of an eye, 211 frames gone forever. Alright. Okay. Okay, that happened. 09018 Sky Blue, gonna finish up on Snow's outfit. Dry brushing this against the ridges and folds in her outer cloak. Okay. Okay. Now, what is it? Misty Gray 09090. And this will be the highlight on the stone. Okay. That's it for the highlighting. Now, Pure Black 09037. Switching to a flathead brush and using just a little bit of water to thin the paint, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Same amount as a base coat. Where's my helmet? Oh, I can get a decent grip. I'm going to line the edge of the base. Being real careful where Storm's toes extend past that edge and going up to the stonework but not over it. Though, to be fair, some of the stone does go past that little lip, but Malifaux measures from the edge of the base, not the interior, so we're okay. Just real careful like. This just cleans it up and gives it a nice finish, completely arbitrary color choice. In fact, I used to do faction-specific ones before all the faction changes for 3rd edition started happening. I just stopped caring. So that's it for the painting. I need this to dry completely because there is one more set of steps to do on camera as I apply a little bit of flock, in this case a fake snow to it. So back in a little bit here. Well, instantaneous for you, a few minutes for me. Alright, gonna get some flock applied. White glue and water. So, generous amount of white glue. In this case, I'm going to use less water than I normally would to keep that glue a little thicker. Glass eyedropper. More than that. And a brush I've more or less dedicated to this purpose. I'm just going to mix this up. Okay, now I'm going to take my solution and sporadically apply it to a few things. Just going to sporadically apply here. And then take my white flock, which I don't have a whole lot of. Just give them a dip. Kind of brush that off where I don't want it. That looks okay. Now I need to let that set for a bit before I seal it. Well, so I'm going to let that set for a bit before I seal it. So, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes under okay circumstances. It's going to vary depending on humidity and heat. So, let's check back on it in a bit. Alright, final step that I can do on camera. Scenic cement. This is a Woodland Scenics product and is a spray or brush on adhesive. Glass eyedropper. The material is important because this stuff will bond to plastic very quickly and quickly clog your dropper. And I just realized I need to put a little more paint right there. But let's just go ahead and drip it over the flock. Get it nice and saturated. Now you need to let this set for a bit before you do this, otherwise this will just make divots in your material. Clean that out. Take a little more Ghost White, 09063. And just kind of patch up that thigh on the right leg here real quick. There we go. So the final step, which I cannot do on camera, is to seal it with a varnish, which involves an aerosol spray can. You definitely do not want to do that inside a building. Fumes are horrible for you. But that is it. Snowstorm from the Arcanists faction of Malifaux. I have 2 more Arcanist videos, and then I'm going to be done with Malifaux for now, and take a break and move on to another game afterwards. But yeah, until next time, I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out.